I have tea, I have knitting basket, I have notes. Hello my lovelies, I hope all is good in your neck of the wood. Today I am going to be sharing my summer knitting with you. To be absolutely honest, it's been rather a mixed bag and I don't have any finished objects to show you, and really many of the things that I've been knitting have been a little bit of a disaster, and it's probably not a good idea to do this video, but you know, the fails are as important as the wins, I think, because they kind of inspire new ideas and take you in new directions. So I'm just going to be sharing all of that. I have got some fabulous vintage patterns to show you, and I've got some really exciting, to me, exciting ideas for autumn winter. I know the sun is still shining, but the thing that I have learned about knitting is that it's rather a time-consuming pursuit. And me, in my little ADHD brain that's always like, got this idea, must do this, must do that, getting all sidetracked by all the shiny new ideas and things that I could be making because I want them immediately. Knitting doesn't work like that, does it? Let's start off with nearly finished objects. So I wanted to make the Jan sweater out of this Drops Nord, and I got just about all the way up one side, the front I think, to the armhole shaping, and the wool is lovely, and the jumper, the pattern, everything about it is lovely, but I had made a couple of mistakes with the eyelets. So the sort of, you know, eyelet lace pattern, it's got like the lovely chevrons in it, and I was a bit like, oh, am I going to notice that? Well, after kind of saying to myself, no, I wouldn't notice it, it turned out yes, I would notice it. And I just made the decision to just undo the whole thing, frog the whole thing back, and I will be using this really beautiful wool because it feels really soft and it's really lovely to knit with. And I really love that jumper, but the pairing of this with that pattern was maybe not the best idea. I then was using this Charisma wool. Oops, losing balls all over the place. It's this. So I started knitting this is Drops Charisma, and I started knitting a sort of 40s jumper with this, and I got like all the way to Sleeve Island and it just looked awful. This knits up as a very dense kind of stiff wool, and again really nice to work with and lovely colour, depth of colour and everything. So then I thought, right, I need boleros. I had this idea at the beginning of summer, boleros would be great over summer dresses, blah blah blah, and then we've just had the hottest summer on record. This is a free pattern which is lovely, the West Yorkshire Spinners Butterscotch Bolero, and it's a really nice pattern, and it's not a vintage pattern, but it's sort of, you know, gives you that same sort of effect. And I've knitted it in this, and I haven't blocked it, but it's basically there, just got to weave in the ends, and I just don't know, I just don't know. Obviously this is not like the right thing for it. You know, little brooch there, it's, you know, I've got boobage, but you know, it's not meant to sort of sit right here. I don't know, what do you think? Should I block it and just save it for, you know, maybe spring next year? Should I just kind of undo it? Because I've also started like a little camisole top and out of this, so that I made a matching set, which is is this one here, and that just looked awful as well. So again, got all the way to armhole shaping and I was like, no. So I've got loads of this wool, And actually if I undid this, I could knit something that's maybe more suitable, because this is just not really a summer suitable wool. So I don't know, this is what I'm saying, it's been a really mixed bag. I don't feel that I've had a very successful summer of knitting in any way, shape or form. So I didn't buy this pattern actually to do the camisole top. I bought it for the bolero because, as I said, having a bolero moment. And I also, it does look quite sort of like 40 little puff sleeve, and I really like that on me. It's one of my favourite sort of style details, whether I'm sewing something or knitting. So I bought this coral. So it's all in pieces. So I've knitted the main body. It comes out as a very loose sort of floppy, drapey fabric once it's knitted up, and it is the Stylecraft Naturals bamboo and cotton there, and it's really beautiful to knit with. It's really lovely. And what you do is you knit the body, and then you knit the lace edging as a separate, like a strip, and then you sew it around. So you do the cuffs, and so that's like one of the fronts, so we can see here. So it's a little bit more sort of, it's coming out quite bright, but it is like a sort of vintagey coral colour. Here are the sleeves, so I suppose that puffs there. And I really do like it. I am going to finish it, but I think it's a bit sort of, it's a moot point now because we're at the end of August, and I think I need to think about what's ahead rather than stay here in Somersville. I think I have an issue with knitting lace, and here's why. Even that sort of eyelet lace, it just doesn't intuitively sit in my brain. I just can't quite get it. I don't know if this sort of wool is a little bit, because it's quite slippery, is a bit tricky to knit the lace, but I literally have tried and tried and tried, and I just can't sort of get my head around it. Made mistakes on the Jan sweater, which is essentially, you know, creating eyelets, and you know, taking away and adding on is how you end up with the lace patterns. And it's one of my things that I really want to be able to do, is to knit lace. And it's just, I don't know if it's because of the stuff going on with Loki, and you know, just like my brain is just like a sieve at the moment. It's really difficult to kind of get my head around anything, because it's obviously a very traumatizing time, but the actual just sort of knitting is very mindful and cathartic and soothing. And that's why, you know, my thing is make the world a better place one stitch at a time, because we make it better for ourselves in terms of being you know, in touch with our creativity, but we also sort of, you know, we're getting out of that whole fast fashion thing. We're slowing down, we're creating something lovely for ourselves or others, you know, so that's why that is. But lace, if you have any suggestions, any resources, any really good YouTube channels, somewhere that I can go to maybe you know, have a look at this, because I feel very despondent about it, and I was really excited about this. I specifically chose this wool to go with a specific dress to wear them together. I now feel like this wool is a little bit out of my wheelhouse. It's a bit overly bright, but I really want to finish it, and I'd actually like to make this as a, you know, you could still do like winter versions of this, because a bolero is a great thing, and it probably won't take too much to extend, have longer sleeves. And you know, this would be great to just go over 40s style tea dresses, but I'm at a bit of a loss. So if you can guide me, my lovelies, and point me in the right direction, I would be really appreciative. I have a couple of things in progress, and one of them is my Sinead ballet wrap top, which is pretty much sewn up ish. That is, here we are, like this. I just got to finish working on it, but I sort of put it to one side because I wanted to try and get these summer things done, but well, that's not happening. So this is very much on the way. Absolutely, I know this is my pattern, but I love knitting this. It's just so, after trying to get my head around things that are just like, it's quantum physics, I don't even understand any of that, like lace, to have a nice soothing knit that just sort of knits up fairly quickly is really straightforward. It works. Sizing is really good. You can use just about any double knit with this, and because it's a wrap, it just sort of works. So slight advertising for myself there, sponsored by me for Moi channel and my patterns, but I'm looking forward to wearing that, and in a blush pink as well, because I am trying where possible to stick to a specific colour scheme. So I've been knitting that, and then the next thing that I'm knitting is a little bit of an experiment, and I shall tell you why. You may remember this fabulous sweater that I knitted, or knitted blouse, from Stitching Time Volume 2, Susan Crawford, and it's just such a great jumper. I love it. I'm so proud of this, and just, yeah, really looking forward to wearing this. And then I also belong to Squidney's School of Vintage Knitting, and she had the home front sweater, and it just got me thinking about and looking at all these lovely vintage patterns that essentially I like the same sort of thing. On the whole, those patterns, so this sort of shape is the shape that I really like, and a lot of the vintage patterns are, you know, as we know, are in, you know, that with like 32 inch, 34 inch. I'm not that size. I'm, you know, more plumptious than that. So I had this idea, and it's a bit of an experiment, and it may not work at all, but I thought if I develop a basic 1940s knitted blouse sweater and I work out those measurements, then surely I would be able to input different motifs and design features into that set of stitches. So if I know what my size is and I work out the basic knitting pattern, then I should be able to kind of like do some of these exciting like knitted features that you see in patterns. So I may be completely wrong, but anyway, I found this incredible chartreuse wool. So this is the Sirdal Country Classic, which is what I knitted that bows sweater in as well, in the black and the pinks. So I want to stick to sort of black, pink, cream and like greens, shades of green for my autumn winter wardrobe. And I've got a very specific sewing project that's oh, bits of wool that I'm going to be working on. So watch this space for that, and exciting things. And this wool's really lovely to knit with, actually. I know that it's a mix. It's wool and acrylic, half and half. But the really good thing about the Sirdal Classics is they do these in 4-ply, and then they do the same colours in double knit. So, you know, you can, and the colour range is really good, and they do a really beautiful blush pink actually, and it's quite cost effective. So I'm doing the front here. I'm just sort of, I've separated for the shoulder, and I've done this sort of moss stitch because I knitted a jumper in double knit that had this sort of feature in it, and it's just not the most flattering. And I think that's because the whole, you know, negative ease on vintage jumpers is a bit of a thing, and I think you kind of got to be, you just got to sort of go for the sweater girl look with them. I have some new things in, which are just some vintage patterns. I say just some, to me these are treasure. But I was rooting tootling around in a little sort of junk shop near me, and they had a whole box full of patterns. Most of them were sort of 60s, 70s, 80s. And then they had all of these incredible patterns that I found. So we've got the heartthrob sweater, worn by film star Virginia Mayo and exclusively designed for Reveille for the weekend. Can't say it. I don't know if this was sort of out of a magazine or something. I'm not really sure. But it's like a little jumper and bolero set. Really, really sweet. I would be really up for knitting that. I'm probably not Virginia Mayo's size. And it actually, does it actually even say what size it is? To fit up to a 36-inch bust. So, you know, maybe I can experiment with my basic 40s sweater. And then there was this really pretty lace 32-inch bust, really sweet little leaflet, lovely lady smiling there. Oh, ahoy. This one was really beautiful. So this is another Reveille for the weekend. The Willow Garden sweater. So it's a kind of like willow plate pattern on the yoke. And film star Zena Marshall, I've not actually heard of her. It's motif of the Chinese summer house in the Willow Garden. There's kind of like, there's not many instructions in there, but that was that one. And then I got this 3 cardigans here. They're all really lovely. I really like actually this sort of styling. It reminds me of Lauren Bacall. I just keep buying these patterns, and like I just don't really know what to, like, I don't really know what to do with them, because it's that sort of sizing up for me that is an issue, which I'm sure is fairly straightforward once you kind of come up with a formula. And then there's Lovers Meeting jumper, designed for Hi Hazel there. So we've got another one with the compliments of the editor. So I suppose these, because they're kind of papery, newspapery, came out of some magazine like Woman's Weekly or something. And again, a sort of a 36-inch bust. So that is the thing, that, you know, if you were a really good knitter, most knitters at the time could make all these different amendments of size. And then this, a Marjorie Tillotson design, number 106 Heather, and they're done with 3-ply, but this is really sweet because it's got this little like drawing illustration of a lady like all glowing with beauty, because she's such a beauty. And then you open it and there's a thing there, lace. So there's that, and the instructions inside, little leaflet. So I was really, really pleased with those, and they cost 50p each. So I was really happy with those. And that brings me on to plans, what I'm gonna make. I haven't even really thought about where I am on my 2022 knitting challenge. We'll do a roundup of that maybe in the autumn knitting episode. But I found a couple of really good vintage patterns that I'm really excited about. So one of my favourite or most worn knits is not something that I knitted myself. It's this cardigan that I bought in a charity shop about 12 years ago now. It's cotton. It was about £2 at the time. It's an old Topshop one. It's got loads of really lovely details. It's got the little puff sleeve, and it actually really makes me think of 1940s styling designs. And I've just worn and worn and worn this, and I thought, you know, I should really try and replicate this. It's got, you know, this lovely sort of panel of yes, I know eyelet stitch is going to be a bit of a problem for me. 3/4 length sleeves. It's got these lovely kind of eyelet detail around the shoulder armhole, and then it's got look, even got this sort of like lovely ribbon on the front with the buttonholes. So they're not knitted, they're actually sewn buttonholes through that ribbon. It's got little details, so it sort of acts like a little bit of a peplum, although it's not a peplum, with this with this drawstring to tie it, and it's just lovely. And because it's cream, it just sort of goes with everything. And I just thought, you know, rather than getting distracted by all sorts of colours of things and, you know, the could do and these sort of fantasy things, which are great, you know, it's lovely to sort of imagine these wonderful things and then make them real by sewing them or knitting them. But anyway, I was in a charity shop and I came across this pattern for a cable knit cardigan, 80s, sort of doing 40s. And I'm just watching a lot of Golden Girls right now because I need the laughs. And Sophia, her cardigan wardrobe is mwah. Anywho's, so I even actually really like the styling of this. I think it was quite good. So it was sort of in 2 pieces. It was, you know, from somebody's knitting collection. And even though it's not like, it hasn't got the eyelet things, which is probably quite good for me right now, it's an Aran cabled jacket. And I also then came across this sort of little waistcoat as well, another like Aran one, sort of another kind of 80s, late 80s probably. Look, she's wearing it, smelling her flowers, and got a lovely little bow tie on with her shirt dress. And I just thought actually these would be absolutely perfect. So I'm going to do this. I like doing cables. I don't know if I'm particularly good at it. This may be a little bit above my skill too, but I'm going to give both of them a go. So I've got to find the wool. I haven't even looked actually at what it just says. Aran, Peyton's Knit and Save Aran, 100% acrylic. So I am going to stick to probably a cream or maybe even a black for this. So I'm just going to kind of knit them in the same wool. I don't know if that's, oh, that's DK. So I won't knit them in the same wool, but I'll knit them tonally so that they're of a similar thing, so that I've got, you know, pieces that just work together. And if that works in that, it might be worth trying it in a sort of maybe a cotton. I don't know if that would be feasible for next summer, or maybe just finding something quite similar to that. But those are 2 things on my to knit, which I will start knitting reasonably soon. I hope you've enjoyed this little look at my not very successful summer knitting. There's sort of a few ideas here for future plans, so do check in. And I'm going to be mixing things up, changing things ever so slightly on the channel. I've been sitting knitting lots of things for my Christmas shop, and it's been a sort of really easy thing to do because basically Loki's just snuggled on my lap and I can just sit there and knit. And I've been knitting loads of my vintage tassel berets, which has been really, really lovely. So it's given me quite a lot of time to reflect and think. And despite this particular moment being a very difficult one for me, I'm actually very excited and hopeful for the future, because I've just sort of done a bit of a kind of a detox of my brain. And you know, I've got some very exciting things on the horizon. So for those of you who maybe are here for kind of vintage cottage content, you're going to be happy. If you like my sewing tutorials and want to improve your sewing, or just, you know, like what I do, you'll be happy. And those of you who like to knit, there'll still be lots of knitting, so you'll be happy also. Which is all I could ask, is that I provide a little moment of happiness for those of you wherever you are in the world. I hope you're keeping safe and well, and really appreciate you spending the time with me in my little cottage by the sea. Your support, past, present, future, really means the world to me, and I look forward to seeing you soon. Take care, my lovelies. Bye.